Welcome. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. You may know him as the showrunner and co-host of Asians Represent podcast. He also has worked on projects for Wizards of the Coast, Dimension 20, and Asmodee. But most impressively of all, he is somehow able to collect both Warhammer minis and afford rent in Toronto. Daniel Kwan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That's the first time anybody's ever said that. Yes, that is. I'll take that as like a huge compliment.
Yeah, listen, I don't even live in a big city in Canada. I live in a smaller one, and rent here is insane. So I can only imagine what's like in Toronto.
Yeah, and still getting new minis and stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So how are you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I mean, it's raining, and I was affected by some of the internet outages in Southern Ontario this morning.
Oh, right. I heard about that. Wasn't it like 50,000 people got hit, I think?
Yeah, Bell customers all got hit, so I got hit in the middle of a meeting this morning. But otherwise, I'm good. I'm chilling. I'm prepping for a convention actually, so I'm going to be at Anime North this coming weekend.
Where's that one at?
It's in Toronto.
Oh, it's in
It's in
Toronto.
Toronto.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
close to the airport. It's like the biggest anime convention I think in the country.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's a good place for
It's
it too.
it's something I've started going to recently. It's something that I went to when I was in like high school,
Mhm.
and then I got invited to because they started doing tabletop RPG stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask if they had
Uh,
that sort of stuff there because it feels like a lot of the conventions kind of do everything now. Every convention you go to will have anime and tabletop stuff and video games or whatever, like a lot of different things.
yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense. Are you gonna pick up any Gundam there as well, or is it mostly just gonna try to
I'm
save
not
your
allowed
money?
to. I'm not allowed to get any more
until you
because
until you finish the
I
ones you
also have the vice of collecting Pokemon cards and
Oh
playing other
yeah.
card games too. So yeah, no, I'm going because they invited me as a guest. I was gonna do some Wandering Blade stuff there, and then I had originally pitched doing a live show of Demon Slayer,
Ooh.
doing like a Demon Slayer like live play using Wandering Blades.
Oh, that'd be
Um,
sick.
but I think that their schedule was full, but they were like, "Hey, come as a guest," and I was like, "Cool." But I will eventually do that concept of Demon Slayer using my game,
Will
because
you
it's perfect.
will you put that like in the same world as Demon Slayer, or are you gonna take like actual characters from like the show and have people play as them? Like, what's your?
I
I don't
put
know if
it
you
in
don't
the
want to say your plan
world
just
of
yet. It's
Demon
fine.
Slayer.
Okay,
No, no,
no,
I
we'll do
put
it.
it in the world of Demon Slayer. Like they wouldn't be the main characters because the main characters I think they have plot armor.
Mhm.
And in like Wonder Blades, you don't have plot armor.
Yeah.
And so I love the idea of some like lower ranked demon slayers trying to like investigate some occurrences that like the Hashira or the main characters are nowhere near, and then having to deal with demons.
Yeah. No, I think that's the better way to do it. I've always been weird with like franchise stuff where it's like I can't really play as I guess pre-established characters already. Like if I played a Witcher RPG, I wouldn't want to play as Geralt. I'd want to play as just like some Witcher in that world. They could be
Yeah,
like Geralt, but I would rather they just have their own story in the same world. And if you want me Geralt, that's fine. But I don't want to be Geralt if that makes sense. I like that in the video games, but in a tabletop RPG, I'd be like I want to be my own guy, getting his shit
totally.
rocked.
It's like the Walking Dead tabletop RPG where they give you stats for like the characters from the
Mhm.
Walking Dead, and it's like this feels weird.
Yeah, that is
Yeah, it
yeah.
feels weird.
All right, I'm
But
gonna hit you
most
with
because
a
we know
hard
what's
hitting
happening.
question, Daniel.
Sure.
You're alone in the woods. Would you rather run into 100 men or one gorilla?
Oh my god. Oh my god. I mean, one gorilla would just kill me,
You don't think 100
and a
men
hundred,
will?
but 100 men would also kill
Yeah.
me. But I think a gorilla would kill me faster. So probably a gorilla.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. I
I
think
think
gorilla.
I
Yeah.
I think I'd die fast if it was a gorilla, because I feel like the gorilla would just pick me up and wham, and
Yeah.
I'm
Just
dead.
wham you.
Just
Yeah.
ragdoll me like Hulk and Loki in the Avengers.
Yeah.
I
That's what
think
I was
that's
thinking
just what
of.
would happen with a gorilla. And I feel like 100 men, that's just like the plot of like so many horror movies.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, 100 men to me. I was thinking about. I was like, this is a terrifying idea of just running into that many people just in the woods
I
randomly.
wrote a game about that. I wrote
Oh,
a game
really?
about this.
What,
Yeah,
yeah. Talk about it.
I wrote a game called Wicked Congregation, about this during the pandemic,
Hmm.
and it's like a solo RPG, but the concept is that you belong to this uh, sort of shadow agency called the Bureau of Paranatural Survey,
Oh.
and you're sent to this like small mountain town in like Appalachia, right?
Hmm.
And because there's a cult there, and the cult has got their hands on this artifact, this like of supernatural power, and you're sent to contain it.
Oh, okay.
And the game starts with you getting the artifact, but your entire unit is wiped out, and you're
Oh,
hiding from this cult that's hunting you, but the artifact is talking to you and telling you to kill yourself.
that's amazing. Wait, so was this like The Hills Have Eyes meets like Control, basically, or like
It's
what?
it was like Control meets Fallout 3 meets like BPRD meets SCP
Yeah, yeah, no, that's
meets like
awesome.
Resident Evil 5,
That's fit. So
Resident
what?
Evil
What'd you
4.
say it was
Yeah.
called again? Because that sounds really cool.
Wicked Congregation.
Wicked
It's like a
Congregation.
solo game. It uses like a Jenga tower and cards.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, that's very fun.
Yeah, it was like it's a universe that I want to kind of like expand on with my game design. But yeah, I totally wrote a game about being hunted by like 100 dudes.
Yeah,
And like I'm like, I don't want that.
yeah. I've
Give me the
been there.
gorilla. Give me the gorilla, give me the bear or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, now
Yeah,
you have
I'll
to write
take one
one
of
with the
those.
gorilla that you have to get an artifact from. That
Yeah. No, the whole debate about like the 100 guys versus the gorilla is so dumb.
it's so dumb.
Because I think the gorilla kills one dude and then everybody
Yeah.
runs.
Well,
Like there's always people are always I've seen the arguments online where it's like, well, 100 people could just like they would go at the gorilla one at a time and tire it out. The gorilla doesn't get breaks. But I'm like, after seeing a gorilla kill somebody, am I gonna want to be next, even if the gorilla's a little tired?
see,
No.
it depends on the parameters, right? It's so funny because like, this is a big because I mixed like the bear and a man and the gorillas, like the two
Yeah.
different questions. But yeah, no, I do think gorilla loses mostly because personally, like humans have won by just doing that, by basically just working together to beat things. I think it depends on the parameters though. You can change the parameters and be like, is everybody fighting to kill? I think the humans win. I think if you're able to run away, I think humans will probably just be like, I'm out of here. I'm not fucking with this gorilla. Why am I here killing this gorilla? I'm out of here.
Yeah, so, or it's like you stick them in an arena or something,
Yeah.
sure. But like I think that if it was like in the Middle Ages, I think 100 dudes would win.
Yeah.
Because like people there are just built different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In ancient times, but I think now, yeah, sure, like I go to the gym, I practice martial arts, I do all this stuff, but the moment I see a gorilla rip somebody's head off, I'm like, I'm done. Like I'm
That's
done. I
really
don't care
funny.
if there's
Yeah.
like 99 of us. Our buddy just lost his head.
That
I'm
is the
out.
funny thing I've seen a lot of people say too, where it's like everybody always says you're gonna sacrifice, like people have to make sacrifices, not me. It's like I'm not gonna
Not me.
sacrifice on that. It's like it's never. It's like most of us are people talking are like nerds that don't go outside for most of their hobbies. You really think you're not gonna be one of the ones that gets
Exactly. I'm a realist. Like, if you could guarantee that I'd be the 100th person in line to fight the gorilla, maybe I stand a chance. If the gorilla gets no water breaks and if everybody else is fit. But if it's like 100 fellow nerds, we're all dead.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
We're all dead.
All right. So now that I've thinned the herd of anybody still watching, so you have a Kickstarter coming out called Wandering Blades. Do you want to tell me about that?
Yeah, so like Wandering Blades is an RPG that I've been working on for about a year and a half now. It is inspired by Chinese wuxia cinema, particularly like the violent, heroic chivalry films of like the 60s and 70s. It's kind of a blend of sort of like OSR game design and story game sort of like concepts. The goal of making Wandering Blades was essentially to like create an action movie generator.
Mm-hmm.
But to more concisely say, like to create a game with like a combat system that really allowed people to express themselves, like their characters, in a unique way, both narratively and mechanically.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember I was reading through it and I found it super, super cool. I also did like that it was very, like, sort of OSR-ish because when you're grabbing all these different systems, at least for me, it can be hard for me to wrap my head around a lot of the different games. So a lot of times when you pick up a new system, it's like a totally different way you have to wrap your head around how this game's going to play. So reading through Wandering Blades, I was like, oh, I can go through this easily. Like, there are differences here and here, but overall, like, the bones are very similar to many other games I've already played. So it seemed like pretty easy to get into in that sense.
Yeah, I really wanted to, make sure that it was, a game of like a collection of procedures. Like I really like this game called Errant,
I've heard
by
of
Ava
that.
Islam. And it's like a collection of procedures that you can use. Like they're all systems that synergize with one another, but you could use what you want, right? And you can use all of them. You could use 5 of them. You can just use combat or whatever. So for me, I really wanted to make sure that I knew exactly what the game would be from like a design perspective. Like I knew I wanted to have a dangerous world. I love the idea of like the world is dangerous, but so are you,
Mm-hmm.
sort of like feeling.
Yeah.
Because I really hate how games kind of or trad games kind of encourage you to kind of just almost like think or believe that anything that the GM puts in front of you is something you could overcome
Yeah.
through might.
Absolutely.
Which is not the case in a realistic world, right? It's like you never know who could just fuck you up on the street,
Yeah.
right? And I think that aligned really well with the wuxia genre,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you don't know who's like a hero in disguise or who is like an undercover master or who is an assassin.
Yeah.
And that's like a trope. So I wanted to like really, really have elements of danger that you see in a lot of OSR games, like really brutal systems. I also really wanted gameplay to be open-ended yet challenging, like OSR games. Like there aren't a ton of skills. It's just you use your attributes and you only roll when you need to.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted that toolbox experience. So like there are all these systems that you can use if you want. But the main thing that I think separates Wandering Blades from OSR games is the combat. The combat has this element of danger, and it's got challenge, and it makes you think kind of outside of your character sheet. But it's really, really dynamic in a way that you don't see combat in OSR games.
Yeah, actually, I have some patron questions later for you, but that was actually one of them where somebody was asking you talk about sort of that skill instead of luck in the combat, and
Yeah.
sort of how they're expressed with the game mechanics, and they just want to know like how are you achieving that sort of mechanically? Like what's behind that?
Yeah, so for folks who haven't read Wandering Blades, like the quick start, it's a D20 system, but it focuses on tempo-driven combat. So players are actually encouraged to balance offense and defense to sort of command the pace of the fight. And so, that the thing that I was trying to achieve with the combat was essentially how you leverage existing systems. So this is where the skill comes into play, right? Combat has that like slow, fast turn separation each round, right? If you decide to go fast, you get an action and a reaction. If you go slow, you get 2 actions and a reaction. Really simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Players always go first in each phase, and they can go in whatever order they want. So it keeps everybody engaged. There's an element of skill there in executing an efficient or optimal order of player turns, collaborating with one another. Same thing with how you leverage the action reactions. You could simply go, I use my action to attack, and I'll use my reaction to block or like parry or counterattack. But there are systems in play that allow you to kind of go beyond that. And this is where the skill kind of comes in. It's like, hey, I want to go fast because I don't want the GM to think that I'm coming up with like a big attack.
Mm-hmm.
The GM will think I only have 1 action, 1 reaction, but I'll use my reaction to use one of my chi abilities to give me an extra action. Mm-hmm. So boom, I'm going first and I have 2 attacks. And that's not necessarily a character ability, that's player skill.
Yeah.
It also comes down to the idea of evaluating what is random and what is uncertain. Because there is a difference between randomness and uncertainty. Both involve the unknown, but one I have a little bit more control over. Mm-hmm. So when designing the system, it was all about eliminating as much randomness as possible. So removing things like turn order, in like, games like D&D, you roll initiative. Mm-hmm. There is randomness and uncertainty associated with it because it's like, I could roll really low despite being a very, agile character. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm going last, which doesn't make sense to me.
Right? Yeah. Your initiative system is very similar to Shout the Demon Lord, and and like I love that initiative system because it does give the players a chance to like actually decide how we're gonna work as a team without the complete randomness of like, oh, I rolled a 2, I'm after 18 dudes. All right, I guess
exactly.
We'll see where things are.
One way of removing randomness while maintaining the tension of the uncertainty of the outcome. Mm-hmm. And so that's where like skill has more room to shine. Because if initiative is completely random, then you completely remove the strategic element,
Mm-hmm.
right? Other things, that keep uncertainty but remove randomness are like how I deal with the amplified and hindered attacks or actions or anything like that, right? In D&D, they use advantage, and it's like roll 2d20, pick the highest or pick the lowest. But there's both randomness and uncertainty there.
Mm-hmm.
But if I say amplified attacks or actions end up just being +5, well, now you have uncertainty but no randomness.
Mm-hmm.
So it allows you to do things like, well, I can give myself bonuses, I can stack things, I can create opportunities where I know I'm going to hit.
Yeah.
And that's where that synergy from the initiative and the sort of mechanical decisions of, giving yourself a flat bonus over extra dice come into play. Or same thing with like armor, right? You have a dodge versus damage reduction. We know you're going to hit somebody, but their armor may actually lessen the amount of damage they take. Same thing with the randomness and uncertainty there too.
Yeah. No, that's very cool. That answers Otuvamo's question, which I forgot to say his name, and I have to, otherwise he'll take his $3 away from me. So I have to.
Yeah. You should actually make it $6.
I really should, but but yeah. So I mean, you have like a lot of experience of designing under your belt, like because I think you worked on like Candlekeep Mysteries. Is that correct?
I've worked on 40 tabletop RPGs.
Yeah. So you have a pretty
Yeah.
impressive resume. Like, is that sort of designing and creating itch sort of always been with you since you're like a kid playing video games and card games, tabletop games, or is that like a newer thing that you got into?
No, it's always been with me. I mean, my favorite tabletop RPG is D&D 3.5.
Yeah.
Like, I'm that kind of person, and you could probably tell from my design. I love that edition of D&D, but I also realize that it's not for everyone, right? It's got one of the highest barriers to entry.
Mm-hmm.
But I love systems like that. I love systems thinking. I love planning. I just like organizing. So for me, as a designer, I've always kind of been thinking about design, and I've always got like a million ideas going on right now.
Yeah.
Like halfway through Wandering Blades, I was like, what would be a really cool hack of Wandering Blades? Armored Core 6.
Yeah, I knew what you were gonna say too. Not Armored Core. I was like, he's gonna say mechs. I know he's gonna say something.
I'm gonna say mechs.
Yeah.
And I literally,
and I literally,
let's see how far into because I also designed most of Wandering Blades like in a physical notebook.
Oh hell yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I have like designs for attacks and stuff like that for like a mech game. And I was like fully prepared to be like, what I want to do? Once Wandering Blades is done, I want to make a skirmish game that literally uses like you build your own kit and then you fight them.
Yes.
Like I love that.
That'd be so sick.
Because like Wandering Blades, like if you think like conceptually about the combat, it very much feels like you're sitting with your friends and your kids, and you have all of your action figures, and you're figuring out how they fight.
Yeah, picking different skills is not that different than picking, I'm going to put this on my mech or this, and we're going to sort of build this together.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, like, I've wanted to do, like, a mech hack of it. I know how I would do Elden Ring for Wandering Blades.
Hell yeah.
Instead of techniques, they would just be assigned to weapons, and they'd be Ashes of War. And then you just have... and so you would have these, like, crazy techniques and stuff like that, and then the combat system would work the same, except you would add in like a dodge, and then you'd have stamina. But Wandering Blades would work perfectly for that. My current like hyperfixation, like side hyperfixation, is Ninja Gaiden.
Oh yeah.
And is doing like a sort of like cyberpunk ninja take.
Is there a new Ninja Gaiden coming out, or did
There's two?
There's two coming out. Okay, yeah. So I wasn't delirious. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm constantly thinking about new designs. I've always got at least 2 to 3 projects on the go.
Yeah.
And it's been like that for the past like 8 years.
Fair enough. So you said you're into 3.5.
Yeah.
What was your take on 4E? Like, were you there with 3.5? Like, were you playing that like when it was in its heyday, or did you pick up 3.5 like later? Like
when it was in its heyday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I when 3.5 was like really, really big, I was playing 3.5. And then there was that switch to 4, and then a lot of people didn't like. My friends didn't like 4, and so we ended up going to Pathfinder.
Yeah,
I think 4th edition D&D is very cool.
That's what I was right, because you're almost everybody I talk to has like that same sort of like designer brain as you, loves 4E, and like sort of we're seeing like a lot of games now that have a lot of like sort of almost like not spiritual successors, but like have almost like love letters back to 4E from sort of like
Yeah,
where they had
like
designed.
Draw Steel, like the
Yeah.
MCDM RPGs.
Yes.
Like I think they're very open about how it's a love letter to
Oh
4E.
yeah, well Matt Colville did a bunch of like 4E
Yeah,
stuff
he
in
loves 4E.
5E, like because he knew he had to play 5E, but he was like, I'm taking stuff from 4E that is, that he liked. Yeah.
Yeah, I like 4E a lot. Like I still look at the rule compendium for 4E.
Hmm.
I think it's like a cool system, and I think it was like ahead of its time. I think if 4E came out now, if it was like a separate game or Wizards released some sort of like hybrid
Hmm.
game that was like 4E, I think it'd be a hit.
That's my thought. I mean, I came in during the 5E days, like early 2010, so like I'm further
Yeah.
like down the road. But like whenever I heard about 4E, my thoughts are I played 4E a little bit just because my friends and I basically did a D&D through the ages campaign where you just kind of
Oh,
like
cool.
played all the different editions. And we could just say, hey, we have all these under our belt that we've tried the different things. I didn't love 4E personally, but also. I do think what you're saying, like if they had made something other than D&D, I think it probably would have done well. Maybe not well at the time when like it was even an even smaller hobby, but I think if it was called something like that, monsters and mazes or whatever. I guess that's the Tom Hanks movie, I think, isn't it? I can't remember. Anyway,
Yeah, if they leaned in on it being like not a role playing game and more
yeah,
of like a
a
skirmish board
tactical
game,
skirmish. Yeah, yeah, I
like
agree.
like look at Gloomhaven and that sort of stuff right now.
Yeah,
If it's just like it's just got way more crunch. So if they
yeah.
had kind of like made it about that, I think it would have been really neat.
I also think that it's funny you said too, because I think that actually would be a bigger audience if you could go into that direction and make it less purely tabletop RPG and went into skirmish. There's a lot like you see those like Kickstarters for those games, and it's like $4 million, okay, like
Yeah, they go bonkers.
yeah,
Yeah,
like they go fucking crazy. So yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, so you did you play a lot of Pathfinder, or did you guys switch off
a
Pathfinder after a
ton.
while? Yeah, a ton of it.
Yeah, a ton. Like 3.0, 3.5, Pathfinder 1, Pathfinder 2. I've played all of the D&Ds.
Yeah.
Because like you all wanted to try every edition.
Have you done stuff with Paizo? I'm assuming you probably...
Yes, I've worked on a couple of Paizo projects. I worked on Dark Archive, both Tianxia books,
Right,
and then
Tianxia, right.
one other book that's not out yet.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I've worked on 4 Paizo projects.
So you've run the gamut of like all the big players that are doing stuff.
Yeah, I think I've worked for the big 3. So I've worked for Wizards, I've worked for Paizo, and I've worked for Critical Role.
Yeah, are there? I guess I don't know if this is a weird question. I'm not in the industry, so I don't know. Is there any company that you'd like to work with? Is there anybody out there that's like working on something you're like, oh, I would love to write or design for like that property or like that franchise or company?
Oh yeah, there's like a couple. Like I really, if they ever did like an English version of a Sword World, I'd love to work on an official English Sword
What's
World
that?
game.
I haven't heard that.
Oh my God, blow your mind. Sword World is the most popular fantasy RPG in Japan.
Oh,
It's their D&D. I mean, the most popular
I thought
RPG
Call
in
of
Japan
Cthulhu
is
was. Yeah.
it's the most popular import, but
Yeah.
the most popular local RPG is Sword World.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's been around since the 80s. It actually came out of an early, what you would call an actual play in Japan, around I think the 1 or 2 year anniversary of AD&D's localization in Japan. This group called Group SNE wanted to make essentially do a magazine article around D&D and what it is. And the folks who did it basically decided we're not just going to describe what D&D is. We're going to literally publish a transcript of a game. And it became a huge thing in Japan, and it still is nowadays. They're called
really
replays.
They're
called replays. And people don't actually like actual plays aren't really a thing people consume as much there as they read session reports and the dialogue.
Makes sense to me, honestly. Like actually,
it's very cool.
That like we talked before we start recording that we're both not like the biggest AP people, but I could actually see myself because almost like the manga versus anime thing. I could actually at my pace go through what people are doing. Yeah.
Exactly, and like Japanese tabletop RPGs, they incorporate that style into their rule books. So like a section of a rule book will just be a replay, and you could literally read through people going through a session and talking about the rules.
Okay, cool.
But they originally started doing this replay on AD&D, and it was set on this island called Lodos. I don't know if you've ever heard of the anime.
I was gonna say, isn't there the
Lodos
OVA of like
yeah,
like where they basically were like retelling the story of whatever game they were playing at the time.
Yeah, and the record of Lodos War is actually what Sword World was born from. And
Oh,
so
okay.
they were originally playing AD&D on this in this setting, and they kind of abandoned it real quick and made their own game called Sword World. And now they still publish Sword World, and it's very, very accessible. It's like the equivalent of like $4 Canadian for a core rulebook.
That's awesome. And so it's only in Japanese. There's no English versions.
There is a fan
Translation, but
translation that
no
you can get, and
official.
there's the only official Sword World game that you can get in English is actually the Goblin Slayer RPG.
That's very funny. That's
and it uses the Sword World system. It's very interesting. We did a whole like episode on it on Asians Rep because I read that game as well with my friend Jeremy. Goblin Slayer is like a weird.
I've watched the first season.
Okay, so you got past the initial stuff that people had a hard time
no,
with.
I'll say this. I'm not a defender of Goblin Slayer. I will say that first thing is hard to get by.
It's unnecessarily edgy.
Yeah, there's a YouTuber called Mother's Basement who does anime videos.
Okay,
and he did a really good video on like how you could actually redo that scene to not be quite so like sorry, gazy at the horrible thing. But anyway, we won't say what it is because we'll try to keep this video monetized. But yeah, once you get past that part, it's like basically just a D&D campaign in anime.
Well, it literally is.
And it's
because
so
in
creative.
the world of Goblin Slayer, they actually straight up say that what's happening in the world are the gods playing games with humanity, and it's literally the D&D game of the gods.
Yeah.
And Goblin Slayer as the character is just one god's edgelord character, like player character.
And at least he's creative.
That's in the lore of Goblin Slayer.
that makes sense
very
because he's fully the most like the classic edgelord, RPG horror
100%.
stories kind of guy where it's just I'm alone and I kill things. But I love the way they do stuff where I made like a portal at the bottom of the ocean, and so I cut off
the water.
Yeah, so like,
it's so
the
smart.
pressure of the water cuts off the troll. It's like, I mean, that's just sick. It's too bad how hard it is to get into it from the initial thing because there's a lot of really interesting stuff there that I thought were actually like fun, creative ideas for.
Yeah, and afterwards, like there's actually a thing in the world of Goblin Slayer where like when they want to exclaim at the gods, they shout Gygax, like Gary Gygax.
That's so funny.
It's in the official Goblin Slayer RPG. But yeah, if there was something I wanted to work on, like I think it'd be neat to work on Sword World. I am a big fan of the RPG Delta Green.
Yeah. I just finished Impossible Landscapes actually like a few weeks ago.
I'm playing that right now.
Nice.
With some friends. I've been in the same Delta Green group for 5 years.
Oh, damn. That's hardcore.
Yeah, we've been playing Delta Green for 5 years. Not the same characters, because if we were the same characters, we would not be playing right.
Wait, so when do you find time to do it? You are doing so many things and so many different little...
I have a Delta Green game literally after our recording.
That's crazy. That's why I was surprised you were actually able to get recorded, because like, he does so much. How is he...
No, Delta Green is just a really special game to me. I really love it. I've always wanted to work on it. I love, I love the idea of Delta Green. I love how just like everyone is awful, but I also think that Delta Green is a really cool way of exploring different like perspectives and mythologies. Mm-hmm. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, no, it is very cool. Because I got in COC was like the first real way I got my friends away from 5e. So going from COC, and I had a lot of friends like Delta Green. I got into more Delta Green stuff from there as well. But yeah, no, I've always liked Delta Green and COC and all that sort of stuff because it's just like it was a good way to. I've told you this before, where it's like a lot of people have tried to move their friends into like OSR games and they fail. I'm like, I think they're too similar. Like they're like a lot of people just see, I see a fighter, I see a mage, I see everything. Why don't we just play? Why are we playing great value D&D? But when you go into like Delta Green or COC, it's such a different. Like you're using D100s, it's a different genre. I think people can say like, oh, there really is like all these different ways you can play tabletop RPGs that are out there.
It's so funny that you say that because I was in a different Delta Green game with some friends. It was like a short term adventure that we did, and one of my friends who I've been trying to get her to play Delta Green for a really long time, and so she did it because she'd been playing lots of tabletop RPGs. And we were talking like a couple weeks after our game had ended. She asked me, she was like, Daniel, like, did we play Delta Green right? And because I wasn't the GM, and I was like, oh, that's like an interesting question. And she's like, because the one thing I'm trying to wrap my head around is like what we're trying to accomplish. Because in Delta Green, it's not you have to go and kill the monster. It's you have to like contain it and stop people from finding out more about it.
Yeah.
And you're actually actively discouraged from trying to learn more about it.
Yeah.
Because the deeper and deeper you go, the worse and worse it gets for you. And so she had played so many games where it's like, we want to learn more. We want to dive in. There is a clean ending. But with Delta Green, there isn't a clear resolution, right? It could be like, you know what? We know that there's this portal underneath this building, or like, Impossible Landscapes, there's like literally the apartment building, right?
Yeah.
My character was like a New York City business building inspector. That was my whole thing. I was like, I'm just gonna cite people and I'm gonna get buildings shut down. And I was like, you know what? How we're gonna end this? We're just gonna like light the building on fire, and I'm gonna falsify a report, and we're gonna say that there was some exposed wire and nothing was up to code. We're gonna have it condemned, and that's it, right? Well, I don't need to go any deeper. I don't want to know more about this. I'm just like doing my job. And I think that makes it really sometimes challenging for people who are coming from other games where there is a clear sort of like ending.
Yeah.
Or there is a clear objective. Because Delta Green, you have a lot of freedom.
Yes.
To approach the problem as you might.
No, that is a very difficult aspect, especially as a player. I find sometimes where it's like it can be hard to like grab onto something, or you can feel like you're wheel spinning a little bit at times, where it's like, should we do this? Should we do that? I tend to play all my characters, I like a fucking stolen car. Like I just run them in there. I'm like, fuck it, let's go. Let's see what happens. So I think that's usually a pretty good offset to somebody like you, like in your position where you're like, I'm just going to do what I need to do. Because it usually creates good drama. As long as nobody's like, ruining the other experience by like totally stealing what they're doing. But like that's usually what you kind of need, is like that sort of give and take of like somebody who's going to try and get a lot more. And somebody's like, well, let's not go crazy here. Let's chill out a little bit.
I am like I like to think of like the ideal Delta Green player. In many ways, like I don't care for like Lovecraft because he was kind of a piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
I also never grew up like really getting into the Cthulhu mythos, so I don't know a lot about it.
Yeah.
So when I'm playing Delta Green and the handler is kind of like alluding to these things, I'm like, I don't see it, and I'm just like, this thing sounds awful. I don't want to learn more. And it like really keeps me immersed in not knowing.
Yeah. That's fun because I'm in a lot I was a lot more in a lot of Call of Cthulhu circles, and that was always something funny to me because a lot of people were obviously huge Lovecraft fans or like fans of Lovecraft, but fans of his work.
Totally.
And I always found it funny how much people want to know all the lore and know everything about it, because for me, what's interesting is that I don't know. The cosmic horror for me is the unknown thing. So getting super into it, they become orcs. They almost become like just the other monsters that I'm not like. The mystery, the magic is kind of gone for me a little bit, so I kind of like sort of exploring and learning naturally in games rather than like, oh, I know what this is. I have to pretend like I don't know what this is, but I know everything about what we're going into.
I've got an idea for a character I want to play next. Whenever my current character dies, right now he's in an asylum, but our whole story is like he's going to be pulled out of the asylum after a time jump, to help the rest of the party who survived. And I really want to play a character who's really into cryptozoology.
Nice.
And was like, like a disgraced academic. And I really want to just think that everything is like Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I really just want my character to be like that.
Yeah, you're hunting the chupacabra, trying to...
Yeah, I'm hunting the chupacabra, and it's never any of those things. It's always
That's a really
worse.
funny bit. That's a very funny character bit.
So I want to do that because I've done the like, I was a government agent, I'm special forces, I was a detective. I did one where I was a hunter, but then my hearing got blown out, and then my character got afraid of gunshots. So then I was like, oh, I'm useless.
It sounds like you're playing like Elmer Fudd. Just
my Delta Green characters, because I don't know a lot about the mythos, always end up dying.
Yeah,
we have like a running joke in my group where me and another player, he always accidentally kills me. And so we've kind of been like, okay, who's going to kill the other person next? This time around, it was me.
Yeah,
but I've been accidentally killed by. I've never been killed by like the big bad. I've always been killed by a party member going insane.
It's funny you
and
say
I
that,
love it
because my one death in Impossible Landscapes was kind of my fault, but also there was this running thing that we kept track of, like the ratio. But my friend, he fumbled and failed more than like he literally got like 3 fumbles in a row. Anyway, there's this thing where we were being chased by some guys, and I was like, I could take these guys. I'm a good shot. I could not take these guys. I took one shotgun, a blast to the chest. I was bleeding out. So they dragged me into a car, and his character was a doctor. Fumbles the role to do, backseat surgery to try and just stabilize me. My character's just gone. It was just like, yeah.
and I think that like the impermanence of the characters in Delta Green is also something that I think is fun. But I'm also somebody who really likes, Dungeon Crawl Classics funnels. I really love funnels.
Yeah.
But it's not for everybody. I have like friends who I know would love the storytelling of Delta Green, but are always attached to their characters. Mm-hmm. And character death is something that's, understandably really stressful for them. So
it couldn't be me, but I respect it, but I'm also like, nah, I'm here to see what happens to my characters, and
I'm here for like a good time, not a long time.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I say it. Like, yeah, no, like they're gonna people are gonna die.
Yeah, Delta Green is one of those games that I've always wanted to like officially work on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned Control earlier with your other with your solo game that you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah,
and I was thinking like Delta Green's very good for that sort of stuff too. When I was playing Control, I was like, that got me in the mood to play Delta Green. I was like, oh, I'd love some more Control-y, which I think there is just a Control RPG basically that came out a few years ago. Was it called like the Bureau or something? Somebody made basically Control the RPG. Not
that's
licensed.
Cool. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it for you after. But yeah,
I think Control is an interesting one because you couldn't play as Jesse.
No, I mean more just the SCP kind of like, I like the weird building. I liked all that sort of stuff. That aspect was all really cool to me. But no, I don't think you can play Jesse. I just think if you were just like some of the other people, some of the other weirdos that you meet along the way, there are people like
or
that.
If you were just like Bureau agents, because I know that there's a new co-op first-person shooter that Remedy is releasing where you play as Bureau agents trying to clean out the building.
Okay, there you go.
Of the hiss.
Yeah.
And I think you could do something like that.
Yeah.
But I think it would have to be a more like a noir game, because you could do Alan Wake, which is obviously in the Control universe. Yeah. And I think that would be very interesting if you did some sort of survival horror game, where you have to like deal with these artifacts, and it's very procedural.
Yeah. Speaking of, since we're on the Remedy verse, I'm assuming you're a big Max Payne, because I know you're a John Woo fan, so I'm assuming
Max Payne's cool. Yeah.
Just because how much they straight up just lifted from a lot like John Woo kind of style.
Yeah, it's just straight up John Woo, if edgy.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, I love Max Payne. I don't know. Have you ever played Stranglehold, which is like the video game sequel to Hard Boiled?
I was literally listening to the Hard Boiled episode today, and you guys were talking about that, and it unlocked a memory of like, oh, that's right. I remember when that was a thing. I never played though, because at the time I think I was like, I want to say like 12 or 14, so I didn't know who John Woo was. I think at that time.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people don't know who John Woo is, and that's a shame to me.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, especially with that, it's just one of those people who just has so much influence everywhere that like it's permeates everything. It's like John Carpenter. It's just like the influence just goes through everything to the point that like it's not even noticeable at certain points anymore, just because it's just so everywhere.
Like a lot of things that people love exist because of John Woo.
Yeah
100%.
Actually, that brought me to a totally other question that has nothing to do with this. I have a question. Have you ever seen Freddy vs. Jason?
Yeah,
I was just wondering, just because I know that's like a weird. I mean, I love that movie, but it was always interesting. One of the best parts about that is the fact that there's a Hong Kong director for it, so you get that action from like when Jason hits people and they go flying.
That's a Hong Kong director.
Yeah, I forget his name off the top of my head, but like when you watch the action,
Ronnie Yu.
Yeah, when you watch the action, it's very much like people go flying. It's probably my favorite. I mean, I love Friday the 13th. Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm kind of okay on, but as like
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. If you just look at clips, if you haven't seen it in a while, if you look at clips, you'll see. Once you see it, you're like, oh my god, yeah. People are like, their bodies like just get hit and they crumple and just go flying across the room. It's very, very much, you can see the influence there completely.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it because they've got a lot of like martial arts movies under their belt.
Yeah, that's why I was curious about if you would see it. Because going back and looking at it with that frame, you see all these things like, wait a minute. Also, this works really well for a slasher horror movie. I love Freddy
Yeah.
vs. Jason. As trash as it is, it's
Huh.
when the new metal comes in the credits, I'm like, oh, this is so 2003.
I'm gonna have to rewatch this.
Yeah, it's a good time with
Damn.
friends, so I would definitely recommend it.
Damn. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to really look back at that. I've saved it so I can remind myself
Yeah.
later.
No, absolutely. I'll ask you some Patreon questions just because
Yeah.
I don't have a bunch. You have a few. Your friend Nate asks, "Are you more of a Skyrim guy or a Fallout guy?" And I want to make it clear. I asked him, "Did he mean Elder Scrolls?" And he did not respond. So it's up to you if he means the entire Fallout franchise versus Skyrim or Elder Scrolls. Is up to you.
I I have a deep nostalgia for Oblivion,
Okay, yeah,
actually, because I still remember the I vividly remember the day I played Oblivion for the first time on the Xbox 360. I was in my parents' basement and I had just gotten out of the sewers. And you got out of the sewers for the first time, and you can look around and you could see everything.
yeah,
And I remember my dad coming downstairs and being like blown away by the graphics
yeah.
at the time. And I played the crap out of Oblivion, played the crap out of Skyrim. I actually prefer Oblivion.
I think most
Um,
people who play Oblivion first usually prefer that one over Skyrim.
uh, I felt like Oblivion just felt like more of a richer world to me, like aesthetically too,
Fair enough.
compared to Skyrim. Played a bit of Morrowind in high school, um, but I've definitely played more Fallout.
Mm-hmm.
Like I played a ton of Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout 76. I love the Fallout TV show too.
I haven't seen
And in
it.
general, it's very good. In general, I like the sort of post-apocalyptic like
Mm-hmm.
dystopia. I really like that. So I think if I were to pick, I would pick Fallout, simply because I know there are other things that I can get my fantasy kick from.
Yeah,
But there are
that's a
very
good
few
point.
things that I can get that like post-apocalyptic open world vibe from. So definitely I would pick Fallout for that reason because I think
Yeah.
they're both great.
Yeah. Did you ever play the original Fallout's, like Fallout 1 and 2? Or were they
Like the sort of like isometric ones.
Yeah, CRPGs. Yeah. Were they
I
too old?
tried them, just not my thing. I love the first person exploration.
That's fair. Are you not
Yeah, I
a
just
CRPG
love how.
guy? Like, did you play Baldur's Gate 3, or was that
Oh
like,
yeah, I
was that
love Baldur's
Bullshit?
Gate 3.
I assume
Oh
as
yeah,
much, yeah, because that's like,
yeah. I love Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, I like the ARPGs too. I love Path of Exile, Diablo,
Mm.
all of that stuff. But there's just something about like how immersive
yeah,
like
the first person is.
Fallout is. One of the things I designed for Wizards actually ended up in Baldur's Gate 3.
No way.
Yeah, if you and spoilers, total spoilers. If you kill Raphael in the game,
Yep.
the gloves of soul catching that Raphael has is
Yep.
the monk gloves that let you heal when you hit things.
Yeah.
I designed that.
No fucking
Yeah.
way, dude.
Yeah, they're the magic item that I designed for the adventure I wrote for Candlekeep Mysteries, and
That's
then it
so
got
cool.
ported into the game. And then I didn't even know it was in Baldur's Gate 3 until somebody tagged me on Twitter, and that's when people were using Twitter. And was like, Daniel, you're in Baldur's Gate 3. And there was a PC gaming article talking about how this item broke the game. And I was like, oh my god, this is awesome.
That's awesome. That's so
but,
so
yeah.
cool. The invisible hand of Daniel Kwan just sort of
It's just
ever
there. It's
present.
like it's inserted into one of the best D&D video games of all time.
I mean,
Yeah,
it is the best. I think at this point, I think it's just. I mean, it's one of the best.
I mean,
video
once I
games of all
found
time.
out, I completely pivoted my current run to monk, and then I was
Yeah.
like, I'm getting these gloves.
Yeah, that's so
Um,
cool.
And then I chose to become a mind flayer, and then it sucked.
Yeah.
Because if you choose to become a mind flayer and you're a monk, you don't benefit from the unarmed strikes.
Oh, what?
Yeah, you kind of lose it. You can become way less powerful as a monk.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, no, I didn't. I don't think I went Mind Flayer in my runs. I only played it once. I played it a few times. I never got to the end except for one time. So I don't think I went Mind Flayer. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I felt like it was what my character would do. I didn't romance anybody. I was like, I'm gonna be like the stoic monk character. I'm single-minded.
Fair.
I'm gonna get the job done. I'm gonna sacrifice myself to like save the world. And then that motherfucker Gale kept like coming on to me, and I'm like, dude, dude,
Yeah, that's like
please.
the early days too, I think, where they were also glitched to be extra horny, I think, in a lot of
Yes,
a
they were
lot, yeah.
super horny at
Yeah.
launch, and I'm like, if anybody, it would be Asterion.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But my character is on a mission. I'm gonna save the world. I don't have time for
That's
romance.
fair. That's so funny.
Only violence.
That yeah, that's a surreal thing though to have something you designed to be like another piece of media that's like super huge. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was really wild to see that. Super proud of it.
That's awesome. Yep. So the next question is from You Little Punk, and he says, "Hey Daniel, what are your favorite Wuxia movies that you recommend for group watch parties?"
Ooh, okay. So group watch parties is very specific.
Yeah, because we have
I
watch parties on the Discord, so I think he's kind of asking like, "Oh, we're gonna which ones can we
gotcha.
throw in
What,
here?"
what did you already watch? You
So
watched
we
Twilight of the Warriors,
That's we watched a billion. We mostly do horror movies, but we just do a bunch of different things. So that's the only
right?
so far. Okay, we watched them. I can't even keep track of all the ones we watched, but in recent memory, in terms of action movies, that's like the only one we've watched
Okay,
recently.
so I'm gonna recommend. It's not wuxia, but it's aligned with horror stuff.
Okay,
Versus, fucking watch Versus.
Versus. All right. I'll
Oh
add
my
it.
god. So here's the pitch for Versus. A nameless convict escapes prison, runs into these yakuza who have kidnapped this woman. He escapes with said woman into this forest, only to discover that the dead are coming back to life in the forest.
Okay.
And it's all the people that the yakuza have killed. So you get that concept, and then you combine it with John Woo style gunplay,
That's amazing. Okay, yeah, we're adding
and
that to
you
the
have
list.
Versus. This movie is fucking incredible.
That is, I
um,
can't believe I haven't heard of this. That sounds amazing.
oh, it's totally up your alley. If you're into horror and martial arts, you must watch Versus.
Absolutely, we're gonna add it to the list.
And so Versus is one of them, but it's not wuxia. I would 100% recommend The Final Master. Super good movie, really good action. Also set in more of like a contemporary China. I recommend Shadow, pure vibes for
Yeah.
wuxia.
Shadow's on the list.
Pure vibes. There's another one called Eye for an Eye, The Blind Swordsman. If you like the older Zatoichi films, but you also like wuxia, Eye for an Eye is incredible.
Yeah, I think I've heard that one actually.
There's two of them. There's Eye for an Eye 1, Eye for an Eye 2. I recommend Come Drink With Me. It's like one of the most influential wuxia films of all time.
Okay.
It's like if you were to make a list, it would be number one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Most important wuxia films.
Okay. Definitely adding to that.
Yeah, so I would say like Come Drink With Me, Dragon Inn, Last Hurrah for Chivalry if you're a John Woo fan. Those would be the ones that I would recommend.
I mean, this is a banger list, so I think
I love movies in general.
Yeah, no, me too. So I always look for new movies that we can watch that like
Versus would be really good, and then Sword of the Stranger. That's the last one I would recommend. It's not wuxia, but it's got a lot of wuxia vibes and parallels. It's an animated movie. It's very good.
I think when I was looking through lists, 'cause I was looking for different movies, I think I saw that one on a list.
Sword of the Stranger really captures what I wanted the combat of Wandering Blades to feel like.
Okay, well, that's good then. Yeah, I'll check it out
Really
for sure
well.
then. Because I often do like to watch movies and media as research for. I think because I already put a lot of video games and movies through the scope of TTRPGs when I'm playing RPGs. Like those are more my touch points. So having
That's
games
how I designed the game.
Yeah, exactly. So like reading through, I was like, having these based on these touch points actually helps me visualize how I want to do it a bit more than I don't know, I guess just the idea of the book telling me how they expect the game to be played, and I have no like context or anything to like to grab at.
So my secret for designing Wandering Blades was actually what I called like studying tape. Because I love video games, I love action movies. I really love the combat in Sekiro, and I also really love the combat in Ghost of Tsushima. And so when I had designed my initial draft of the combat system for Wandering Blades, I would play like Ghost of Tsushima, or I would watch really high level gameplay, and I would break it down frame by frame to see if my system mechanically could replicate it.
Oh, cool.
And that's how I actually designed the system. So Wandering Blades can frame for frame mimic Ghost of Tsushima, but for a party.
Wow. Wait, how long have you been working on Wandering Blades? How long has
Year and a half.
Wow. Okay. Honestly, really thought you were gonna say like 3 years. Or something. I thought like it's pretty polished so far. I've only read the quick start, so it's
Oh, thank
like
you. Yeah, yeah, a year and a half. I wrote. It took me about a year to write the manuscript.
okay.
Quick start, I wrote it like 7 months, eight
Okay.
months.
I mean, it's a pretty hefty quick start with like 60 pages. Like it's. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
20
yeah,
of those pages is an adventure, but yeah, no, that's pretty solid then.
yeah. Just about a year and a half. Almost 2 years, but I think really focusing for about a year and a half.
Okay, cool.
But that's because I knew exactly what I wanted out of the game. It's this kind of wuxia experience and nothing more.
No, that's awesome. I already asked you Otuvama's question earlier about the mechanics and how you achieve that.
Yes.
So Transhuman asks, what is the intended length of games in Wandering Blades? If it's intended for both one shot and campaign play, are there any mechanics or optional rules that were designed to enhance one or the other in mind?
Yeah, yeah. So early on when I was designing the game, I kind of like sat myself down and I thought like, what do I want the length of play to be? Because the length of play will dictate the mechanics of the game. If I want a hyper lethal game, I can't also want it to last indefinitely like a
Mm-hmm.
D&D game. They clash. They fundamentally clash. So I decided that I would want it because I took so much inspiration from movies. I would want it to be like really well suited for one shot play or, short term campaigns like 5 to 10 sessions.
Okay.
When I was designing the game, a lot of the lethality of the game is designed around how long you could be playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are mechanics to make one shots even more deadly. So there are optional rules for like exploding damage dice, stuff like that.
Oh, hell
Um,
yeah.
yeah, there are also rules to encourage long-term play. So in Wandering Blades, you have both hit points and wounds. Hit points are kind of that buffer to serious injury, and wounds are things you accumulate, through serious injury in battle.
Yeah.
And in for long-term play, wounds can only be removed if you engage in downtime.
Okay, perfect.
And so you could be walking around with full HP, but like 14 wounds. So the moment you lose all your HP, you drop dead.
That's great. I like that a lot.
So I played a game with like a one-on-one game with somebody for this podcast called Party of One. It actually comes out on I think on the 28th. And the final fight scene got down to the player and the big bad, and they both had 14 wounds.
Oh, that's
And the
awesome.
player, he was bleeding. So after this round, he would die. And everything was on his one slow turn. And he
Oh,
managed to kill the big bad by scoring a crit. Um,
that's amazing.
and it was super epic. But we had talked about like what we would do after. And the story was actually about him saving this doctor who was being taken to the capital for execution for helping people in need.
Yeah.
And so we talked about what would happen in the next session if we were to continue. And he's like, "Yo, I'm fucked up." And but my traveling companion is a doctor, so our next session would be us trying to find a safe refuge so I can rest up.
Oh,
And
wow.
then now you have this element of danger, like, okay, you've just killed some secret police. You're on the run, but you also need to find a place where you can rest up because otherwise you're super vulnerable.
Yeah.
And the style of play also changes because if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have to engage in combat, um, you have to end it in the first round,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So the way in which you think about your resources, like, are you more likely to use a fast turn or a slow turn? Um, are you even going to try to engage in combat, or are you going to take a more, use your wits to get you out of trouble, or stealth, or anything
Yeah.
like that? And so, a lot of the way in which healing works in Wandering Blades kind of slows down the pace of play over multiple sessions because you have to think very carefully about how you accumulate injury in the game.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
oh,
that's
that
kind
gives
of
me
how I
just so
like
many
you change the
ideas.
pace.
That's
Yeah,
so
just like
cool.
being injured forces you to actually engage in downtime. Same
Yeah.
thing with like how you level up, right? In the game, like you don't level up through killing things. You level up through participation, working on your drives, your connections,
Yeah.
being in danger.
Yeah.
You can level up. But one thing I've added in the core rulebook that's not in the quick start are martial arts manuals. So getting
Oh,
access to like really good techniques.
that's super
Um,
cool.
like techniques that there's a technique that makes you stationary, but you can attack every enemy around you.
Oh, yes, that's awesome.
Almost like you're like a shadow and you jump around and
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
I went like pretty bonkers with them. But the only way in which you can get these techniques are A, if you find the manual, so that's like a whole other side quest, and B, if you spend experience to learn them. So you could have somebody in your party who is a higher level than everyone else, or everybody's a higher level than you, but you spent your experience to learn a technique that nobody else knows.
That's amazing, Daniel. That's a game that get me pumped to like actually play.
So you could be a
like,
glass, you could be
so
a glass
cool.
cannon
Yeah,
with like a monster of a martial arts technique that you
yeah,
could use once, or you could level up and have more HP and have better stats,
yeah.
but have only the conventional techniques.
So that personalization, I think, it just fits so well, and also I think really leads to you talking about making a mech version of this that like fits
Yeah.
so perfectly. Yeah. Oh
Well,
no.
my friend Graham, who goes by a POC gamer on Blue Sky, uh, really wants me to make a cyberpunk game.
Mm.
So instead of chi, it would be energy, and your techniques would come from your enhancements and weapons.
I'm down with that. That sounds sick. Just being a bunch of
Yeah, so
cyberpunks with that.
yeah,
Having different stuff
think
like
about
the
like
blades and everything else that come out of your
exactly
arms.
like the
Yeah.
retractable
Yeah.
blades and like the stealth and my god, so like a mission based game where you're cybernetically enhanced mercenaries
Yeah.
would be really cool. And that's kind of what I'm approaching with like the whole like the ninja concept
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah, well, actually, this does lead into another question I had for you, which is like, so what expansions can people expect from the quick start? Like, I know you have a lot they're adding to it, but like, just what are some highlights that you think like people should know about for like what the thought
So
process
there's going to
have?
be so if you've read the quick start, there's only 2 classes. There's going to be one other class. Actually, there's going to be 3 more classes now because we hit one of our stretch goals. I already wrote one of them, and it's the scholar. So the scholar gets to pick one of 2 vocations. You can either be a detective or a physician. The detective is the only class in the game that can force the GM to tell them stats.
Oh.
So it's like, I want to know how many hit points, what is their dodge, how does their technique work? Because of that wuxia trope of like, oh, I recognize that martial arts technique.
Yeah.
I recognize that stance, or I recognize that weapon. The detective can do that. The detective can also do things like, I really like the way they did fighting in the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies, where it like slows down. He would call out things.
Yeah.
And the detective can do that. They can actually give allies bonuses equal to their intellect. So you could like call out weaknesses, or you can actually study an enemy and hold on to a static damage bonus until you actually hit them with the detective.
That's so anime too. Just like
it's very anime.
Action stops to be like, that's the rising palm technique. You gotta.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted. And then the physician.
That's awesome.
The physician can attack pressure points. So you could use your focus and you could immediately kill follower enemies, or you could inflict wounds, like directly attack a boss enemy's wounds with
awesome.
unarmed strikes. But they can also transfer chi. So you could have a physician work with like a Yosha who's like, oh man, I'm all out of chi, and you could transfer your chi to another person, and then they can go, and that's where that synergy comes into play.
Yeah.
Then there's going to be 2 other classes that are compatible with the wuxia stuff. One is being written by Monkau.
I was gonna ask you about that because I thought you like I love Monkau.
Monkau is a legend,
actual legend. Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's so
yeah,
cool
and like
for this.
Yeah, so like Monkau, I when I was kind of talking to them, Monkau was like, well, what if I did this? And so there's this old historical wuxia tale called the Kunlun Nu, and it basically talks about the Kunlun who are essentially like dark-skinned individuals from like Southeast Asia who are brought into China as like either slaves or like retainers.
Yeah.
And so Monkau's idea was to create a class all around that.
That's very, very cool.
So kind of like being an outsider.
Yeah. That's sort of like second class, sort of like how that you see in some of those societies. Like you see like across history where there's just like that can happen a lot. I think like right now, like in Dubai, I think they're doing that with like I think people from was it India? I can't remember. Yeah,
where
it's like it's a very dark thing, but it is something that's like that like
super dark.
Yeah.
But like, imagine you having your own martial arts styles from your
Yeah,
homeland. And
they
Southeast
came.
Asia had such a rich
Hmm.
tradition of martial arts. Um, and so we have like Monk Hao is going to have like basically free reign to make a class.
That's so cool.
And then Hiromi Koda is another like really accomplished designer and cultural consultant who is going to design a class that's based on the Ryukyu kingdoms of like the southern Japanese Ryukyus.
That's really really cool. 'Cause
Because they were actually a vassal state of
I
the
was about to
Ming
ask,
dynasty.
yeah, because I can't remember if I heard it from your podcast or if it was somebody else I was listening to recently. Where like Ryukyu, they're not Japanese, or at least they weren't. Like they were just a vassal state, but they became like Japan kind of vassalized or took them over. Or am I thinking
Yeah.
of? I'm
No,
thinking
you're
of
right.
Ryukyu, right? Yeah, okay.
And then they were actually they have their own culture
Yeah.
and everything, right? But they were also controlled by China at the time. So
Mhm.
thematically it makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is a way to, like spotlight like a culture that is like underrepresented in media,
Yeah.
while also adding something really interesting to Wandering
Yeah.
Blades. And then my friend Navar is actually doing, because the anime inspiration is there. We're literally going to make in one of the stretch goal digital zines a knockoff Demon Slayer class.
Yes, I remember you mentioning that. Yeah, that's very
Yes.
cool.
So we're gonna do a knockoff Demon Slayer class. It's gonna be very tongue in cheek. So you could literally take Wandering Blades, the rule system, use this class, and just play Demon Slayer, the
Yeah.
tabletop RPG, or sorry, Devil Killers, or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
So you don't get sued by Sword World with their own.
Yeah, I don't get sued by
Yeah.
like whoever owns Demon Slayer, because
Yeah.
that's huge, billions of dollars. So yeah, those are the three classes we're adding. And I'm super excited about it. I'm already excited about the fact that the scholar is just there, because it changes the way in which you actually like approach play entirely.
Yeah, absolutely. So is that 5 classes total or
Five,
6?
6 classes.
6 classes total. Okay, that's a pretty
6
good
classes.
variety.
One is more of like tongue in cheek, and
Yeah.
5 are genre classes.
Yeah, there's the little brother class you give to your little brother who loves
Yeah,
Demon
exactly.
Slayer. And,
Exactly. But like even with like the core 3 classes, there is so much build variety,
Yeah.
particularly within the Yosha and the Outlaw, that you could have a party where everybody is playing the Yosha, and every single sect expresses themselves differently in combat.
Mhm.
Right, with the way technique work, and again with my whole reliance on like skill in combat, it always will feel different.
Yes, yeah. It's nice having those different sects that can actually sort of represent how you want to see your character and feel different, because that is one thing that I liked about Wandering Blades over a lot of the OSR things, despite it's sort of like shared capital line, is that there's a lot more variety in that. Like with a lot of other games, if you're like a fighter, and I like fighters, and a lot of people have issues with how fighters work, but I've always been a fan of making my own fun with them, past
Yeah.
just like I hit. But there's only so much variety until you get to like more magic items or more stuff that's not like you're an axe guy, I'm a bow guy, or whatever. So having the different sects that really do actually divide what you're able to do, I think is very nice.
It's almost like this is my vision of what a fighter could be.
Yes, yeah. I mean, because you mentioned before, like I love the DCC warrior, like the
Yeah.
the Mighty Deed of Arms, which is just like the badass die basically. I've always loved that. That was like one of those things where it's like, yes, I want more stuff like this. That's like really does make the fighter stand out quite a bit more.
Mhm.
Again, I don't have an issue so much, but I know a lot of people are like, oh, fighters are lame. I'm like, I don't think fighters are lame. I think you just, I don't blame you because the mechanics aren't really helping you out, but I think you do need some creativity when it comes to playing a fighter.
And I think that's like one thing. Like, yeah, it does require some creativity, but not everyone has that experience, right?
No.
Or has the opportunity to do that. So I also think it's on the designer to
Absolutely.
also provide opportunities and space to encourage that creativity too.
100%. For sure, because there's a really cool adventure in the back of the quick start. Is that going to be like the core book adventure, or do you have a different core book
No.
adventure? Do you have like other adventures planned that you're going to write for it already, or is it what's the plan so far on the adventure
So
side?
there's going to be 2 adventures of the core book. I'm going to redo the quick start adventure. It's going to be new maps and everything. And I'm writing a new core rulebook adventure actually right now. It's currently in testing. And it's like a direct homage to Dragon Gate in the movie. And the approach I'm kind of taking with adventures is that like I want them to be highly reusable. Like I don't, as somebody like I wrote a really linear adventure for D&D 5e with Candlekeep Mysteries.
Mhm.
But I really like one thing I like about OSR products is that you can kind of use them over and over again,
Mhm.
right? Like my favorite OSR adventure is Kidnap the Archpriest. I
Yes.
I love that
Great
adventure
episode on
so
Between Two
much.
Cairns with that
Oh,
one. Yeah.
thank you. I fucking love that adventure so much, and I've played it so many times because it's different every single time,
Mhm.
right? And I like that replayability because to me, as like a consumer, that's good value.
Absolutely. Well, I like those sort of steps. My favorite DCC adventure is oh fuck, I forget what it is now. But basically, you are protecting a theater troupe from a noble who the theater troupe is basically making a play about that's making fun of him. And
Oh, that's
so
cool.
there is a timeline of like what things are happening, but you can sort of like scrap that if you want and kind of just basically have things happen. It's almost like a reverse heist almost, where like you're the one defending like the
Oh, I
area.
love that.
And so it's my favorite one. I've run it like 3 or 4 times now, and every time it's an absolute banger. It's super fun because you get the creative things going with people where it's like, oh, if they're doing that, we're gonna do this, and if they're gonna do that, we're gonna go over here and all that sort of stuff. So
Oh, that's
I
sick.
think it's called Acting Up in Lankmar is the name of the
Okay,
adventure.
I'm gonna.
Highly recommend
Okay,
it.
okay, I'm gonna. Oh, I found it. Active in Lightmar. Nice.
The
Um,
dichotomy of Frey versus Jason and Acting Up in Lankmar as my two recommendations to you is very funny to me. Just
hell yeah.
completely opposite. Anyway, sorry.
Look. You're just a man of taste.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Just diverse.
I
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so like this adventure is essentially this like border, this like roadhouse in the frontier of northwestern China, and it's going to be presented with like day and nighttime events, random events, factions, NPCs, different plot hooks, and it's essentially a sandbox that you could tell multiple stories in, whether it be a one shot. Like the start of an adventure or in the middle of an adventure, like, oh my God, we're all fucked up. We need to go somewhere to rest.
Hmm.
Well, our only place is this inn in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere, and it's got its whole host of like characters. Each adventure is going to have a an isometric map
Hmm.
alongside top-down maps.
Ooh, I like
So
that.
you're going to get both. I really love isometric maps,
Hmm.
and I love architectural cutouts. I
Yeah.
think they're just so cool and evocative. And I just, as a GM, I just love looking at them
Yeah.
because I think they're more interesting than looking at a top-down battle map, especially if I'm prepping.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, all the adventures are going to essentially have this format. And in the future, I'd like to, release more of them in a sort of like pamphlet
Yeah.
sort of like format, because I also really love like trilemma adventures.
Yes. Yeah. That was one of my first. I had like the long book is here somewhere. It does not fit on my shelf with the other books. But
Another
like,
another Canadian
oh yeah,
product.
that's right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, another Canadian product.
There
And
are dozens
so
of
yeah,
us designing
yeah, it
things.
does. And so like I really want to like take that approach because I want to give players the freedom to kind of tell their own wuxia stories,
Hmm.
right? I'm not going to tell you how to do it
Yeah.
because wuxia as a genre is just so varied.
Hmm.
It's so varied. Like you're going to get the highly melodramatic wuxia, you're going to get the highly violent wuxia, you're going to get the combination. You're going to get wuxia that is more fantasy leaning and some that is far more grittier,
Yeah. No,
and grounded.
I like
Yeah.
that sort of sandbox too because I'm somebody who just sort of I kind of go with where the players are going. We're like not like giving them what they want, but more just where the wind's blowing. I'm like, okay, the players want to do this sort of stuff. I'm gonna just pivot into this sort of way. And having a book that says like do this to do this, do this to do that, like services like you should be going down this road. If it's more just like here's the stuff that's going on, it's like all right, I can just plop them down, see what they do, and I have a lot more fun letting the players kind of run wild and seeing what I want to do, in that setting versus being told like go here to here. So I do like that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, oh, are the players fixating on this one NPC? Cool. Here's all the info you need about them.
Yeah.
Tell a story.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's very
Yeah.
very cool. I also going back earlier to like the damage you're talking about. Just it gave me some ideas of like if you're stuck like in a little like tea house or tavern or something, and just things are going on with like some local thugs and stuff. You have to like decide like fuck, am I gonna do something or am I gonna like have to? How are the players gonna actually deal with the situation at hand here that has just been presented? I like that a lot where it's just very open.
Yeah, literally, like, you're resting at the inn,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden the doors like swing open and a guy runs in. He's all bloody and he says he's being attacked by like bandits.
Hmm.
You're like, are you gonna go help?
Yeah.
If you go and help, maybe you fight off these bandits only to realize that they're soldiers, and now you just murdered a whole bunch of soldiers.
Yeah, there's like a magister coming now with a bunch more.
Yeah,
so,
and now there's going to be a siege,
Yeah.
just like in Dragon Gate Inn, when the archers come and just shoot up the inn.
And you just wanted a drink, man. You didn't want.
Yeah, I just wanted a drink, and now I got to deal with this shit.
Yeah.
So you could do a lot with it, or it could be like, hey, we need to go to this inn because our contact is there, but you arrive but you don't know what your contact looks like, and so the whole thing is trying to figure out who to meet.
That's a very fun stuff. I like that a lot. That's a very fun sort of RP kind of thing for the players. That's a good one. I might actually steal that just in general for other things. That's a very good stinger.
Take it.
Yeah.
Take it.
Speaking of, so do you think Wandering Blades would be compatible with like a lot of other sort of OSR kind of adventures, like dungeons and like, or just like adventures in general for other systems that like?
I would say so. I think that the main difference is that there's no dungeon crawling in Wuxia.
That's true.
Right? There are exploration mechanics that are going to be in the game and stuff like that. But anything that doesn't take place underground, you could totally do with Wandering Blades. And again, that's the goal. That's the thing that I like about the OSR, is that like everything is compatible for the most part, with a little bit of hacking.
Oh yeah, I mean the OSR is so much more than just like the dungeons. At this point, I mean, as people say all the time, OSR basically means nothing because it's kind of just a vibe more than like
it's a vibe,
a specific thing. So yeah, so I can absolutely see that. I only have a few more questions for you, but one thing because I know you did the Ross Rifles RPG or Ross Rifles.
Yeah,
Kickstarter,
that was one of my first games.
Yeah, which is very cool because a friend sent it to me, and as soon as I saw the name, I was like, okay, this person's Canadian because who else is going to talk about the fucking Ross rifle of
Yeah.
But it was very, very cool.
It has been called by many the most Canadian tabletop RPG of all time.
That's very funny. Is it a World War One?
A World War One game. Yeah. It was actually on display at the Canadian War Museum.
No fucking way.
Yeah, they had an exhibition on the intersection of games and conflict, and they approached like me and they were like, "Hey, we want to do a display?" And there's literally a display, and it was Ross Rifles, and they had big all the art and stuff with the book.
I love that museum. That museum's so cool.
It's sick. They sell Ross Rifles in the gift shop.
That's
yeah. It's super cool, but the Royal Ontario Museum here in Toronto won't.
Yeah, that's very funny. So like with that was that your first Kickstarter or?
Yeah, it's the first ever Kickstarter. Yeah.
And this one's your second one, or did you have any in between the two?
No, this is my second one. I've been either like self-releasing stuff, or I've been on other Kickstarters. Like I worked on Avatar Legends,
right?
But that was not my Kickstarter.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, this is my like second Kickstarter.
Yeah, like how you been? I know Kickstarters can be very difficult. What are some things that you found? Like, is there any advice you want to give to anybody who's looking at doing Kickstarters or anything like that? I know you're also doing Kickstarter at a very weird time. At the time of this recording, it's just a weird world to be any sort of creative in. I think
100%. I think that I was talking to my publisher about this, and we both kind of agreed. Like, had we done this a year ago, we'd probably make like 3-4 times the amount of money. It's also a niche game too. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I would say is like, there's also never going to be like the right time to do a Kickstarter. Yeah. Like you could plan and plan and plan. And we had actually pushed the Kickstarter back a couple of times. We were originally going to do it last October for around the time of Big Bad Con in San Francisco. But there was like a boycott of the convention, and we just didn't. It didn't feel right because we didn't want to take up space within the boycott to talk about this Kickstarter. And so we pushed it back to May, and then some orange goblin in the States got elected as their leader. And then the world went to shit economically. And so for us, we were kind of like, there are a lot of factors kind of going against Wandering Blades, and that like it's a niche genre. It is, we're running a crowdfunding campaign during, a global economic crisis, because that's what's happening right now. And on top of that, the usual RPG audience kind of sees the word OSR and they think bad.
Yeah.
And so that's always been something I've been trying to do, is like, educate people on the fact that like the OSR is just like incredible. And yeah, there are bad players, but there are bad actors in like every community.
Oh yeah. I mean, at the time of this recording, there's the whole Goodman Games debacle with what that's going on over there.
Oh my god, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so it's constant, and like I like them in games overall. I
Me too.
Between Two Karens did a Patreon episode today actually that is about that, and for anybody who has their Patreon, I would recommend listening to it. I think they're very even handed in how they talk about it, which I thought was very good because there's a lot of
Yeah,
craziness on people swing on both sides of this issue. I'm more kind of in the I'm just gonna stay away from giving games for a little bit issue because I'm just doing other stuff anyway, like this sort of stuff. So I'm fine not touching
exactly.
DCC for a little bit.
Exactly. I don't plan on giving them any of my money.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, that I will act with my dollars.
yeah.
But yeah, I think if I were to give anybody advice about running like a crowdfund, is that like I don't think I could have done this on my own. Like
Mhm.
having like a publishing partner to do this with has been like super great. Like I think I'm like fairly well known within tabletop RPGs, but I don't know a lot of OSR people.
Mm.
Like I'm not really a podcast listener. You know, I were talking about this beforehand.
Yeah.
But I know of the guys of like Between Two Karens, but I would never have gone on the show if not for my publisher.
Well, same
Right,
with
making
this.
that introduction.
Tony reached out to me
Yeah,
because he saw that I was saying like, "Oh, this looks fucking peak," and he was like, "Hey, do you want to talk to Daniel? I could."
yeah,
Okay, yeah,
exactly. And like
exactly. Yeah.
having Tony in my corner to do that has been like fantastic. So like finding a partner to work on
Hmm.
like this project with has been like really, really, really
Yeah.
clutch. So I would say like approach it with a team. Another thing for me is that like I'm the kind of person who I don't like backing Kickstarters because I've been burned so many times.
Mm.
You know, you back a game and then you don't get it for like 5 years and you're like, oh shit, I forgot about this.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that person.
Hmm.
And so Wandering Blades, like the core rulebook, the manuscript is like 90% done already.
Yes, I've heard that a lot. I've heard a lot of people say get at least most of it done by
Yeah,
the time the Kickstarter is live. Don't do it and then be like, well, now I have to work on this whole this whole thing. I have 10 goals I need to do that I'm not even like touching yet. So yeah.
exactly. So like Wandering Blades is done. Like the game is done. And now I'm just finishing up one section has a freelancer working on it. So they're
Mhm.
gonna finish that. And then the adventures, like editing and like changing some of the adventures around. That's all I need to do for the core rulebook.
Yeah.
The writing is actually primarily out of my hand now, and I'm moving into more of an editorial role now. And
Oh
so my
wow.
hope is that we'll be shipping out Wandering Blades within a year.
Is that a scary change from that? Because you have a lot of stuff under your belt, but is from going like I have to be done with the writing, like is that an easy thing for you to do where you're like, I have to stop right now, I need to get into the editing phase, I need to get into like finishing this phase?
Oh no, I'm totally ready for it.
Yeah.
I'm totally
'Cause
ready for it.
are you like at that point where like I just need to get this like out there into the world so that people can have it and
Yeah, my motivation is that like I'm gonna get it done so I can work on my Cyberpunk Ninja game.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. So like I want to get this done also because like I want people to get their hands on Wandering Blades.
Yeah,
Like I want to see what people will hack it into. Like
for
I would
sure.
love to see what people try. Like you could make a fucking Star Wars game out of Wandering Blades. Like it would
Yeah.
be sick if you made
Yeah.
a Star Wars game out of Wandering Blades. Like I mean I saw somebody make a Star Wars hack out of Ross rifles. Um,
That's crazy.
it made so much sense though. They basically, instead of being Canadians in the trenches, they were like, "You're clones during the Clone Wars, and
Oh,
the
wow.
Germans are droids." And I was like, "Holy shit, that's so
I mean,
smart!"
that basically is the inspiration for like. I mean, it was World War II or World War One, but it was still that's basically like where Star Wars started from. So it's kind of like going full circle. It makes sense, actually.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, that makes so much sense." So I want to finish this so I could see what people will do with it.
Mm,
Another thing, like a tip that I really want people to have is like, be prepared to be communicative. Like I've seen so many Kickstarters where people just like drop.
yeah, just ghost.
Like they ghost, but they're like working on it, but they have nothing to say.
Yeah.
Like I'm committing to like being as communicative as possible and being reachable. That's why
Mhm.
like set up the Discord server, or like I'm constantly going to be writing updates about the game to make sure people know that like we're working on it.
Yeah. How do you find the Discord server? I know you were nervous about having to run another
I was so
Discord
nervous.
server.
I'm so scared. I'm so scared. And right now I've just been I keep like asking Tony, I'm like, oh, should I open it to like the public or should I just keep it for backers for now? I'm like, no, I keep talking myself out of it. And I'm like, I'm just gonna keep it for backers right now. And like people who ask me. Because I don't want to I don't want it to get out of control.
No, that's totally fair. I completely get that.
Yeah, I don't want it to get out of control. Like I was even hesitant to launch it in the first place.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
remember telling you, I think Drew that you're just like, oh fuck, I have to, I
yeah, I
have
have
to
to
do
do
it.
this. Not because I don't want to interact with people, because like I will interact with anybody who wants,
Yeah,
to learn about this game or has feedback or anything like that.
but Discord's a
It's just
skill. You like, it's hard when you're doing all
it's a
these other things. You
skill.
have to deal with that. Yeah,
It's a skill, and I care about people and their experience, and I don't want like a poorly executed Discord server to
hmm
cloud their, I guess their perception of the game.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I will say, if I'll give you one piece of advice, because I'm pretty ruthless personally, but it keeps the vibes of my Discord very good. People who really kill the vibe, I don't like. I kick them.
Just
I
cut.
come. I like people be like, oh, but they're not really breaking the rules. I'm like, I don't. That's not a democracy. They're shitty. They're like yeah, sure they got around the specific rules, but like I've had 3 complaints about them. They're like
Good to know. I'm
yeah,
gonna like I do plan, like when the campaign is over, I plan on opening up the
yeah.
server and stuff like that.
I am
But
heavy-handed to be clear,
yeah,
but I do think it keeps. It's not about making sure people feel bad. It's more just like, that some people. I've noticed a lot of Discords get really bad when bad actors get to stay around because they're good
right.
at not, they're good at not going overboard with breaking rules or being
They
too.
kind of like push the boundaries.
Exactly, and then you're like, well, do I do anything? But once they're gone, you're like, oh, I'm so glad the person's gone. I stopped interacting here because they were always, doing whatever. Yeah.
I'm gonna take that advice to heart. I take that advice to heart. But yeah, I wanna. I guess my piece of advice would be the thing that I've learned is give people as many opportunities within
For
your
sure.
comfort level to interact with you.
For sure, for sure. No, I think, and also, I mean, you're also selling a product, which I think is different than me just doing like YouTube stuff, which I think is a different kind of, I think, customer kind of base that you're looking at there as well. So I feel like
I guess I just like I just see myself as a guy who likes to write games.
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I just like that's how I see myself. I'm always surprised when anybody knows who I am or has played my games.
Well, it's
Like,
also
well,
funny
like
because you share names with a guy who's like an insane
who
director.
fucking won an
I know.
Oscar.
So I was looking for you, and I had to type in like tabletop or like board game geek. I was like, there he is, because I was like,
I'm like the lesser Daniel Kwan, because there's also a Daniel Kwan on Star Trek Next Generation. Like literally, there's a character in one episode named Daniel Kwan.
that's so funny.
So I'm like the third most famous Daniel Kwan. I think I'm more. Maybe more people know of me now because TNG is not as popular anymore.
We'll
It's an
get
older
there.
show.
We'll get you there. We'll make you
But,
the second most famous Daniel Kwan.
Yeah, I'll always be the second most famous Daniel Kwan. But I honestly am always surprised when people like know of my work. Like when I was on Between Two Karens and Yohai said that he knows me from Ross Rifles, that kind of blew my mind.
Yeah. It's a weird
It's like,
feeling when someone says, "Oh, hey, you're that guy who did that thing."
yeah, it's super weird.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Ross Rifles had so much longevity too. I learned that last year. I learned that Ross Rifles is really popular in like Germany.
Really?
Yeah, it's really popular in Germany, and like a friend of mine sent me a picture of Ross Rifles in a game store in Florence, like
Wow.
Italy. Yeah, it's just like it just has kind of just always been around. But I don't know. I'm just I like to think of
Yeah.
myself as the kind of person who I don't want to be like known, but I also like creating.
Yeah.
And so when anybody knows of my work, I always am like kind of surprised.
I think that's also the hard thing about being creative in this day and age is that the personality also kind of can sell, your stuff as well. Like people are more willing to, like it's a big part of the marketing these days is the social media aspect or the podcast.
I hate that.
Yeah, it's like it sucks because there's a lot of really talented people, but nobody sees their stuff because they're like, I just want to do this thing and I just want to put it out. I'm not good at marketing myself or making sure people see my podcast and or my YouTube videos or whatever it is that they're doing to actually sell stuff. So like it's good to have people who are like who highlight that sort of stuff. Like, hey, go check this thing out because
Yeah, I'm not good at hyping myself up.
well, I think your podcast is very good. I will say, anybody listening to this, the Asians Represent podcast is like
Oh, thank you.
amazing. I was just listening to it for research. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna start listening to this now. This is really, really good. It has a lot of my
thanks.
interests of just like a lot of nerd shit and stuff, and also like with stuff like when you're talking about like the Pacific Mall I was talking about today, where it's like, oh man,
Oh.
hitting me with fucking nostalgia, dude.
Yeah, That was a fun episode. I think you'd really like just like the John Who podcast because
Yeah.
that's just all John Woo. But yeah, Asians Represent is like something we've constantly been trying to like evolve with our like content. Like
Mhm.
I've always seen it as the show that like you're either going to be a listener who listens to every episode or you're going to tune in for the episodes that you like.
Yeah.
And I'm totally okay with that because that is kind of that's what you get when you have like a whole bunch of people sharing this like content feed.
Yeah.
And so like I've got some episodes I'm really excited about. The next episode, it's going to be a little bit delayed, but we're going to do one and it's going to just be about combat in tabletop RPGs.
Oh, nice.
We're just going to look at different combat systems and like what are their similarities, what are the underlying like foundational things that are required for good tabletop combat.
That's cool.
So we're going to look at different systems. 4E is actually one of them.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're a little bit delayed on the episode simply because like I have to do a con
Yeah.
and then Wandering Blades.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got some cool episodes. We have a whole episode. The season finale is actually going to be about genealogy and how difficult it is for like Asian Americans to actually learn about where their family's from and stuff like that. But again, not for everybody, but it's the kind of content that we enjoy making.
Yeah, I was listening. I remember Drew brought up that he was doing the genealogy thing in one of the last.
Yeah,
episodes.
he's going to do that episode.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
no, that's I mean, I'm also here just for the Drew's PBTA slander because even though I do like some PBTA stuff, every time it gives me life. Every time he's just
every time Drew and I go to a con, people go up to Drew and be like, "Drew, want to play a PBTA game?" And people just constantly ask him about that. Or we had this like long running joke where we would just every episode of No Dice No Problem, which is like our kind of like fan variety show on Asians Represent, where we would just slander Chessex Dice.
Yes, I've caught those bits. Yeah,
and people have been going to Drew at cons and handing him, be like, "Drew, I got a gift for you," and they just hand him Chessex Dice.
Oh, that's so funny.
And apparently, it got to the point where I was told by a friend who knows somebody who works at Chessex that Chessex is aware of the slander.
That's
and somebody at Chessex actually really loved it.
Yeah.
So we have
a sense of humor though. That's great. Like that's
it was just this running joke where we like slander Chessex, and now we have this running thing of we're sponsored by Hero Forge now.
I love your Hero Forge ads. You guys just fall into them.
And we just like never. It's gotten to the point where it's just so fun because we are supposed to provide ad free to our patrons, but our patrons love to ad read so much because they're a bit now.
Yeah.
That like I just wait for them because I never know what Drew's gonna do when he does his ad read. So it's always a really good time. But I think with I guess that's why I don't see myself as a content creator because it's just like I'm just making stuff that I think is fun and it's not like a career for me. I have like a regular job and like I do my design stuff. That's more of my games career, I guess.
Yeah.
But I just make this podcast with my friends for fun, and I talk to my friend Drew about shit, like literal shit, and stuff like that. So I think it's just, I think I'm not built to be a content creator. I'm built to be somebody who likes to create and just put it out there, and if people like it, they like it.
I think that's the best kind of content creator, though. I think that's the curse. I think.
I guess. I guess, but no, I appreciate that you like our content.
Yeah, no,
because it's just fun.
Yeah, well, it's also funny too because it's one of those things where it's like I should be more objective, I guess, at times. But also, I'm just like I just like this shit. This is just awesome. So it's hard for me. Where I'm like I should be more unbiased, I guess, when interviewing somebody. But I'm like, yeah, fuck it. This is not like politics. This is just fucking games and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just games. It's literally just games.
Anyway, I've kept you here for 90 minutes, so I won't keep you here any longer. I know you have a Delta Green game to get to at some point tonight. Is there anything you want to plug before you go?
Wandering Blades, the campaign ends on May 28th. So you head to wanderingblades.com. If you're catching this after the campaign, I'm sure there's going to be some sort of backer kit thing where you could pre-order, and the Discord server for Wandering Blades will be open to the public after the campaign. So you could always head there and see what's going on in the development of Wandering Blades. I'm going to be involving folks in picking the art and everything. So I want to make sure that we hit our stretch goal for art. I want the backers to be like, well, what do we want to see in the game as art? And so I'm going to be involving people in that, sharing drafts and everything like that. I love sharing updates on the game and getting feedback from folks. So we'll be doing that. Maybe in the future we'll do some like movie nights and stuff like that. Yeah, no, that's they're very fun. Just because you can just do like a theater thing, so nobody can actually like talk during it. They can all join and watch. I've been doing a movie night actually every Sunday, me and like two other collaborators on Wandering Blades, we watch a wuxia movie or an action movie every
Mm.
Sunday, and we've been doing it for like almost a year.
That's really fun. That's a fun
And I
thing
have
to
like,
do.
and then every time we watch a wuxia movie, like I take notes on it in my notebook, and then I like add it into the game.
There you go.
And I have stuff that I haven't added yet. I have a note here from a movie called Sakura. It's a Donnie Yen wuxia movie,
Ooh.
and I just wrote bladed shield, a shield that you could use to block and strike. I'm like, huh, I should add that in. Um,
I
I
love
will
the design
eventually.
brain cannot be turned off. It is ever
Oh
present.
no, I got up in the middle of the night the other night and I wrote down something, and I think I shared it in the Discord server. Oh yeah, I wrote. What did I write down? I wrote down special action for adversary, allowing them to blind enemies by reflecting the sun from their blade! Exclamation mark. That's just I just wrote that in the middle of the night. So I
I
have
do that, yeah.
I have a lot of crap to go through in my notebook to add it to the game. But I do want to host like movie nights and stuff like that. I didn't think of doing it in the theater mode because one of the things we were doing is we'd pause and discuss.
Well, the thing, yeah, when it's just like you and your friends, that's the best way to do it. So you can actually like have a social gathering. But if you get like 30 people showing up to those, or like because the most I get
Yeah.
usually is like maybe 10, 12 people at most. You
Still a
can't have,
lot.
you can't have 10, 12 people trying to make bits or talk about the things while it's going on. So usually we just have a side chat that we all type our bits into or
Yeah.
discuss things what we think about the movie and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I should do that in chat. One of the things that I've been doing as kind of like a sort of side thing from a break from movies, we submitted our top action movies of all time. We had ended up with a list of 128. It got really out of control.
Damn.
And I put them in a bracket, like a random single elimination bracket, and we've been going through them.
That's amazing. I need that list. You have to send me that list.
I'll send it to you when it's done.
Yeah.
It's like right now we're on round 2, and we have like there are some like easy wins.
Mhm.
There's some like the Killer versus Old Boy.
Yeah.
Like the Killer wins in my mind. But then we have like
Really? Over Old
Oh
Boy.
yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. If we're just talking about action movies.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But then we have Police Story versus The Raid.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's just like, ooh, that's a hard one.
I'm more of the Raid kind of guy. Mostly because that one shot of that guy falling that doorway, just like right.
Oh, into the doorway?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's one of the most gnarly fucking shots of all time.
Yeah. Or we had like some that were really easy. We had like Hard Boiled or Lethal Weapon. Like Hard Boiled.
Yeah.
Like no debate whatsoever.
Yeah.
But then we had some where we had a huge debate over what was it? Oh, Bad Boys 2 or RoboCop.
Oh, for me, it's RoboCop.
It was RoboCop for
like,
us, but we were talking about like what it meant to actually be in like an action movie. We had another one, probably the most contentious was The Expendables or Shoot 'Em Up.
Still Shoot 'Em Up for me. I gotta go Shoot 'Em Up.
Shoot 'Em Up ended up winning.
Yeah.
Because we were like, well, what are the criteria? What is like the impact?
Yeah.
And we were like, there's the nostalgia baiting of The Expendables, but Shoot 'Em Up was also not particularly creative outside of its action sequences. Its plot is kind of meh.
Yeah.
But we had this like long debate. But I'll share it with you when it's done. We're on round 2 of how many rounds?
That's a really fun idea for going through movies. I love the.
We should do it for horror movies.
Yeah.
Like, what's your favorite horror movie?
Yeah.
Everybody like throw in a list. You get 2 submissions, and then you make a random bracket so you're not playing favorites, and then you just debate. You schedule a time to go through round 1. Let's talk about it.
Just doing horror movie tournament arcs through just.
That's exactly it. Like, I know my favorite horror movies are going to be very different from other people's.
Yeah.
Wreck. I love Wreck.
I don't think I've seen Wreck.
It's a zombie. I love zombie movies.
Nice.
It's a Spanish found footage zombie movie.
Yeah.
Very good.
I'm assuming you've seen One Cut of the Dead.
Yeah. I have. I don't know what my favorite.
One Cut of the Dead is the best movie I can't talk about just because it's just you cannot talk about. If somebody hasn't seen it, you can't like.
Well, I will say this, like, watch Versus. I just want to know what you think about Versus.
Yeah, I think once you said that, the person who asked it, who I know, I think once they hear what Versus, like your description of it, I think that'll probably be on the list in the very near future.
Like the poster of Versus is a dude with a katana over his shoulder and he's wearing a duster.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know exactly what the vibe is with
Oh,
versus
sick.
once you hear that. It's so good. That
Damn.
movie is incredible.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Daniel. I really appreciate you chatting with me. This is really fun. A really great getting
Yeah,
to talk
it was
to
a good
you.
time.
Yeah, no, a very good time. And yeah, everybody check out Wandering Blades and even Ross Rifles too. Go buy that as well. And also check out
Yeah,
the Agents
support
Represent podcast.
Canadian.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
exactly.
we don't ship the physical edition of Ross rifles outside of Canada right now.
Oh, there you go.
Well,
Yeah,
we don't
guys, we're
ship
in
to
a
the
trade
States right
war,
now.
so you have to
Yeah, we don't
protect
ship
us.
to the States right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
100% in a trade war. This is how, this is how we're fighting back
Yeah.
by not shipping our World War One Canadian RPG to the States.
That's so funny. All right. Well, goodbye, everybody.